Hello, I think I've got you all.
Hello.
Can you all see me and hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Excellent. Yay, how exciting. Welcome to our very first TM7 Master The Basics class. For those of you who have been Thermomix owners before, we used to call this our Easy Essentials, and now we've sort of renamed it and rejigged it to call it Master The Basics. And it is designed for new owners, but we actually find that anybody who either owns a Thermomix or is thinking about investing in a Thermomix gets value out of this class, because we are going to talk about some basics, but inevitably we love to talk and we share lots of other little gold nuggets and hints and tips as well. So prior to now, we obviously had done classes with our TM6, and then during that hybrid period, we've done side-by-sides on Zoom, and some of you may have been there, but today is all TM7. So we're going to just say permission to be clunky, because screen angles and things are a bit different on the TM7. So I'm sort of trying something different here by having my phone just looking at the screen. So I hope that's helpful, but we would welcome any feedback after this class in relation to those sorts of things, because like our Thermomix, we just want to get better and better for you as well. So for those of you who may not have seen the TM7 yet, I am going to just angle you this way a little bit, and you can see my beautiful machine. So you can see what I said there about the screen from the laptop doesn't actually show you the screen. So that's why I've got my other one here. Now, if you look over at my other screen, and hopefully that's clear enough, I've got that's my home page. Now, when you get a TM7, you can customize your home page. So I've got mine, which has got my planned recipes for today, but then I can access my week, pre-clean, manual mode and tutorials. Although I can actually edit that, and I'm thinking I might edit that to have my egg boiler mode on the front, because that's actually one of my favorites. So that's the beautiful thing about this, is that you can tailor the screen to you. Now, the thing about the TM7 that's different is that everything is just up and down. So just like any of your smart device. So if you're someone who likes to scroll, instead of getting caught up on, maybe TikTok or Instagram, scroll through recipes and plan your week. It's lovely. It's much more fulfilling. Then what we've got on, so I'm in the home page, you can also then tap on the search bar. The search bar will take you into your recipes and into Cookidoo. So you can search by category, by ingredient, etc. There's lots of different options there, and filters, etc. you can go into. The next one along is your saved collection. So it always shows recently cooked. So I love going to someone's house and they're recently cooked. It gives you a little bit of an insight as to what they're doing. That's what's been happening on my recently cooked. But then it also shows your bookmarks, your recipe lists that you've made, and any collections that you've saved as well. The next one down, which is a little picture of the blades on the left there, shows you all of the modes. So we can access all of these modes directly through the screen of our TM7. And you'll also notice that the scales are always available to you as well. So as soon as I tap those scales there, they'll tear to zero and I can start weighing ingredients. And then last but not least, down the bottom, we've got our sort of little center here, which has got our tools, which I've also got on my front page, but I could choose not to have those on the front page. And that's where your settings are. You can access your instruction manual and all sorts of things in there as well, which is very exciting. What you might even notice at the top of my screen are some numbers and temperatures. So that is what we call the cook center. So I currently have a loaf of bread in the oven. So you only see a couple of stages of this bread being made tonight. And both Diana and I both got excited and have a pre-made one to show you as well. So mine's in the oven now, and it is actually, I do have the sensor in it. So the sensor is another little tool that we'll talk about tonight, which is going to tell me exactly when it's ready, because it's going to tell me when the temperature is right on the inside of my bread. So the goal of tonight is for you to learn about your TM7. If you haven't ordered one yet and you are thinking about getting a TM7, we have exhausted our July and August stocks, so it is a September delivery. Now, there is one very good way to fast track that, and that is to join our team. So if you join our team, and you'll see a little bit of a peek behind the apron tonight, and prior to TM7 being launched, people would say, oh, you're all so professional and so polished. And hopefully we're still professional. But I think at the moment, because we're learning, we're probably a bit less polished, which probably makes us a bit more fun and relatable. So if you want to come and learn with us, give us a shout, because what happens is you get sent your TM7 straight away, no deposit required. we do some training, and then you start what we call our 60-day program. And in that time, you get to try on the business for size. You do demos, you invite people to these sorts of classes. In fact, we're almost at capacity tonight. We have actually had 96 people register, and I have got a 100 capacity Zoom room. Now, we do say to people, even if you can't make it, register and we'll send you the recording. So I know not all those people are coming, but we were pretty excited that we had so many, we were very popular. Or maybe it's the TM7 that's popular. Or whatever, we'll take it. So as I was saying, 60 days, try on the business for size. If at the end of that time, if you've made 3 sales, you've got a half price TM7. If you've made 6 sales, you've got a free TM7. If you've made no sales, you've got a TM7 on your bench. You've learned a lot about it and you pay for it at the end. So how cool is that? So even if you're thinking you might be interested, you've really got nothing to lose. So please either reach out to whoever invited you tonight or reply to the email that I sent for the registration and just say you'd like some more information. I know some of you did tick that box on the form, so we will send that to those people, but some of you may not have ticked that box, but as you go through tonight, you kind of go, oh, maybe I should do that. Alrighty, so just quickly, the price of the TM7 is $2,649, and we do have payment options available with Hum as well. So we sort of say in Thermomix, would you like to pay for your Thermomix with your money or your time? So it's your choice. And of course, we are here to support you every step of the way. So I'm going to go straight now over to Diana, who's going to get the first dish happening, and you will be back with me shortly. Diana, over to you. Where is the spotlight? Here we go. Replace the spotlight.
Hello, everyone. So I am actually going to cook 2 recipes today and start off with the sauteed onions. And the reason why I am cooking these is just to demonstrate the high heat mode in the TM7. So I'll just move my little camera around. As Michelle mentioned, we are still getting used to all the angles, but I'll bring this nice and close because you don't need to see me. You just need to have a look at the TM7. So if you have looked at any previous Thermomix models or the TM6, you will find that it looks a little bit similar in that if you're looking at a Cookidoo recipe, and when I'm talking about Cookidoo, that's our recipe app, which has access to over 100,000 recipes globally and in different languages as well. We use Cookidoo Cookidoo is used with guided cooking, which means it takes all the thinking out of your cooking. So if you are feeling a little bit tired or very distracted, or maybe you're very new to cooking, or whatever your level it is, we'll take your cooking to the next level and then let you know what to do step by step. So every recipe has an image. So if you're a visual person, you want to know what it looks like, this is really helpful. Every recipe is rated. It's got the prep time there, so how much time is needed in the kitchen, as well as the total time from start to finish. And if you scroll down, like Michelle was saying, we scroll down with the TM7, it will have all the ingredients, hints and tips, and every recipe also has the nutritional details as well. So if you are following your macros and health is important to you, every recipe has all that information for you there. So just to begin, all we need to do is press the little start button and the scales automatically pop up, and we've got our list of instructions here. And what you'll notice is that there's also pictures there as well. So to start off with, we're just going to drizzle in some oil. And we need 20 grams of oil here. And as you'll notice that we've reached that 20-gram mark, I did actually tap I've got the cord behind me, but it did actually start ticking itself off. So that's so wonderful with this feature of the TM7 is that once you do add the ingredients, so we're going to add some sliced onions here. You've got a choice of 200 to 300 grams. I'm actually doing the lower limit, so I've just got just over 208, and then we can tick that off. But it's actually, sorry, I should have waited that extra second to show you what that looks like, where it ticks off the recipe, because I absolutely love that feature. It's really helpful if you've got dirty fingers and you don't want to touch your screen. And we've got this, what's it called? It's on the, Michelle, help me out. The digital twin.
Digital twin, you got it.
I was just... This is all new to us, all the new terminology. We've got our little digital twin. You can see that I've popped the lid on and it's got a picture of the lid, and everything is preset here. All the factors here, the time, temperature and speed. That's how we cook in the Thermomix world. And the 160 degrees is our high heat mode. You can even see that symbol there, which indicates the high heat mode. So we're just going to press play there, and the little image there indicating the high heat is activated. And something that's all of us noticed when we first received our TM7 is how quiet it is. So the high heat mode actually replicates you standing over the stove. The blades are not moving now, and the heat is very quickly increasing. And soon I can hear that sizzle. I'll bring this a little bit closer, see if you can hear that sizzle, but we can hear that sizzling of the onions right now. The blades are not moving at the moment. What you might also notice is that green light is actually changed from amber and now to red. Don't know if you can appreciate that on the screen. So that's a safety feature to let you know that that the temperature is increasing. But the beauty about the TM7 is that the bowl has actually is insulated here. So I can actually touch this even though the temperature is quite high, and no, I'm not going to get burnt. So if you've got little ones at home, this is actually quite wonderful to have. And I can hear that sizzling. I'm not sure if you can as well. And just listen out for those blades. Now, absolutely love the high heat mode. And the reason being is that when we are cooking food on high heat, we're able to brown meat, we're able to caramelize our veggies, and all that browning and caramelization actually adds extra food into our cooking. But it also allows us to do things like sugar work. So we can make honeycomb and toffee. And honeycomb is something that I actually love making. It's very easy to make and very cheap as well. So if you ever have one of those situations where you have to bring a plate, or you'd like to make a gift for someone, making honeycomb is actually very cost effective, and it's so delicious. So when you've made your own honeycomb from scratch, it's so much more different than purchasing it from the shop. But if you do like the high heat mode, which I do, you'll find lots of recipes in Cookidoo. We've got special collections, but you can just type in high heat and you'll have a variety of recipes. So if you've got the TM6, that's exclusive to the high heat mode, you've got that option to saute vegetables. Sauteed broccoli is one of our family favorites. It's the best way to eat broccoli. It brings out the flavor and it's so delicious. You can even saute just chicken cubes and shred them up afterwards for sandwiches. So it's a really handy recipe or feature to have. But what's unique to the TM7 is that we actually have a high heat mode built in. So you don't need Cookidoo or to access a recipe. You can actually pop the high heat on yourself. So if you feel like maybe enjoying a bowl of stir-fried vegetables, you can actually access the high heat mode in the TM7, and you've got the option of either a gentle or an intense high heat mode as well.
Thanks, Diana. We're going to go over to Suzanne now because
Beautiful.
we need to get back when your onions are finished and you're going to talk for the whole 10 minutes.
No.
Love you, but we need to move
Thank
to
you.
Suzanne so she can get her things happening. We'll see you soon with those beautiful onions. Hi, Suzanne.
Hello. I thought I'll move you a little bit closer.
Perfect.
So you can see the screen. There we are. So what I'm going to do for you tonight is we're going to do some whipped cream, and then we're going to get onto some butter. So I'm going to go into my sector here, and I can see that I've had my buttermilk bread open, but what I'd like to do is actually I'm going to go to whipped cream, and we'll start the recipe as a whipped cream recipe, but I know I can keep going to butter. Actually, maybe I'll do that. So we'll just go backwards over to butter. So we'll slide down and go to the butter recipe here. So you can get all of those recipes on Cookidoo. Now, take my lid off, and we're going to grab that butterfly attachment to make sure that we've got this one close. So butterfly for butter. Now, what we're going to do is start along. All it's going to do is ask you to put the butterfly whisk in. Now, there's been all sorts of things said over the years about which way you put your butterfly whisk in. You just put it on the nut so that it comes either side of the blade. Any of the parts will do. It'll chomp on, it'll sort of attach itself quite well once you start working it. So butterfly whisk on, and then we're going to head out to next. Now, interestingly, somebody in Germany did their PhD creating that butterfly whisk. So every day, 15 million people around the world use a butterfly whisk. Isn't that pretty cool? All right, 500 mils of cream. Got the cream here, and in it goes. Now, you can use pure cream, which is always nice. At the supermarket today, all I could get was thickened cream. Sometimes when you go to the supermarket, you can find cream on special, and cream on special is often the best one to whip to make butter because it's actually a bit faster, But not only that, it does a great job and it's cheaper. So you can make buttermilk and butter for sometimes around 60 cents, depending on how cheap you can get your butter. Oh, sorry, your cream. So we're just going to tick that off. We've got it in there and go to next. Next, it says 1 minute on 3.5. So I'll put my little lid on as it's suggesting here and press play. Now, I'm not sure whether that's loud. If it's loud in your ear, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me all right, Michelle? Give me a nod if it's okay to keep chatting.
We can hear you, Suzanne, and we cannot hear the Thermomix at all.
That's amazing. Listen to how quiet that Thermomix is. Wow.
I don't know about you, but a few times when I've been cooking with the TM7, I've actually thought I'd forgot to turn it on, and I've actually gone back over and went, oh no, it is cooking.
It's so funny you say that. Often, the other day I was doing soup and I walked over and put my ear to it. I saw a customer the other day who was saying exactly the same thing. So I think you're pleasantly surprised. So we're just going to stop for a second and have a look, because that shall have turns itself into lovely whipped cream for us. Oh, look how beautiful. And so just by listening, I could hear that it was sort of heading away to a whipped cream state. I didn't want to turn it into butter quite yet because I wanted to hold that excitement for when we're all together. So now we're going to do it again. Put it on again. And off it'll go. Now, I reckon this this cream is going to need the full 2 minutes to actually turn itself into butter, because I'm listening to it and it's just sort of making a whirring. I'm making sort of whipped cream sort of sound to it.
And so you made a good point before, Suzanne, that actually it whips quicker when it's almost out of date.
It does.
If you buy super fresh cream that's still got a month to go, it might take 10 minutes for you to whip it and turn it into butter. So I have had that before with customers going, it's just not working. And then we work out that they've got super fresh cream and it's just it just takes a lot longer. Whereas if you've got it just on the use by date or just past, you can turn it into butter within, as you say, a minute or two.
I think that's exactly right. And I think that's exactly what's happened today. So what I've done is I've gone past the step that I was on and just gone back to the previous step. Now, what you have to do on the TM7, you need to press the little 3 dots here and set it as the current step again if you need to prolong a time or go back to a previous part. Now, what I can do too is I can go in here and change the minutes. So instead of 1 minute, I'm actually going to change it to 3 minutes. Even though we might not use that long, I want to be able to hear it and see when it's ready. So I think it'll probably be ready in another 1.5 minutes. Maybe we'll give it 2 just to see. And then we can have a look at how it's going. So it's on 3.5 again, and I'm just going to press play. So let's give it a go and we'll see. But, you know, as much as Thermomix recipes are all tried and tested, as Michelle was saying, it does sometimes depend on your ingredients. And you do need to use some common sense now and then and think, well, that's making a lot of noise quite early. Maybe that's turning into butter already. And, you know, interestingly, I can hear it going quite crazy now.
The thing that I love about the cream to butter thing is that, you know, everyone has different things that are important to them. And some customers go, oh, gosh, couldn't be bothered making butter. But you might have a tub of cream that you've used half of it for a recipe and it's about to go off. So rather than tip it down the sink, you can actually then go, well, I will turn it into butter, and then you'll have your buttermilk and your butter that you might then make a banana cake or some scones or something that then goes into a lunchbox. So it actually really aids that whole zero waste thing, doesn't it?
Very, very much so. And that's really important, really important. So interestingly, my butter heard me and it thought it had just turned to butter very, very quickly. So you can see in here that we've got that nice butter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain off that first lot of buttermilk. Now, you can, if you want to, use a muslin bag, or you can just use your basket, your rice basket, to sift that through. So I'm going to take out my butterfly because I don't need that anymore. And then I'm just going to, we'll use the little glider board that's on the bottom of my Thermomix to move him to the side a bit. I'm going to here with our rice basket or our drainer basket and tip it in here. And so you can see the buttermilk's coming out, as is the nice butter. Now that's only the first step for our butter, because what we need to do is get all of the buttermilk out of that butter so that it keeps for the longest period of time, because the more buttermilk you get out, the longer your butter is going to keep for. So I'm just taking that butter out. Now, at home, if it's for your family, you might want to use your hands to squeeze this out. I'm going to be polite and use the spatula, and we can just squeeze, 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 and the buttermilk will come out. And if you go to the shop and have a look at the price of buttermilk, it's not cheap. And butter at the moment
It's ludicrously
is crazily
expensive.
expensive. Yes, absolutely ludicrous. And my kids have butter on everything, and I'm afraid I'm not a margarine girl, so I refuse to go the margarine. Now, you know, I probably could have chosen a bigger bowl. As you can see, it's a little bit messy, but hey, it's doing a good job. And I'll turn that round for you so you can see lots of lovely butter. When I'm clever, I should be able to do it backwards, hey? After 15 years, that'd be a pretty clever thing to do, but I still can't. So in it goes. Butter back into the bowl. And now we're going to give it a good wash. So that over here. And I've got some cold water. And your Thermomix will tell you the steps to go. So we'll put him back on so that you can see it step by step. As Michelle said, it's funny going backwards now with your Thermomix with a new Thermomix because you have to change the way you do things. So there's butter inside, the mix sitting on, and it always have to be straight on front. We go to the next step. Next, remove butterfly, we've done it. Strain contents, we've done it. Rinse butter under water using spatula to strain the liquid. Well, we're going to put the liquid in here.
Now, if you're going to use your butter straight away for baking,
Yeah.
for example, you don't necessarily need to do this step, but this is a step
That's
that
true.
preserves the butter as well. So for those who are actually making it to be their spreadable butter and they want to add a bit of oil or salt or whatever, then this step is important because it will last longer and you're getting rid of all of that buttermilk.
That's very true. Look, I'm just going to jump on and do it for a few seconds here, for about 9 seconds. We're just going to rinse it out. Was on speed 9. That was.
And I love how easy it is to jump out of recipes and use the manual mode too. I find it's very easy. And even
It's so easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I've made my butter go away, which is very funny because going backwards, I always get a little bit. But what I've done is just rinsed it off. And so we've got another whole round of milk. And it's not buttermilk, but it's very similar. And I use it a lot in soups and stuff because there's still a lot of goodness to it. Thank you, glider board. Put that out of the way again and strain it off again. And then I can use all of that nice.
And do you know something else that I really love about the TM7?
Yeah.
I've noticed you made a few splashes, but how easy is it to clean?
Oh,
especially when the kids are cooking and there's flour everywhere. It's just so easy to just give it a quick wipe over.
And I did
on that, from a technical viewpoint, the screen is a multi-touch screen. So you might, if anyone's come from TM5 or TM6 land, it was a single touch screen. So it meant that if you had food on it, you did need to wipe it off because the screen would think it's being touched. The TM7 is a multi-touch screen, so you don't actually have to clean as you go. You can just clean it at the end. And one of our recipe testers actually did say to us that when she was in Germany with it, she actually smeared the whole screen with butter, and just as a being really aggressive testing, and was still able to cook, and it was still really responsive throughout the whole process. So that is, you know, if you're someone who likes to clean as you go, that's fine. But if you're happy to just clean up at the end, you don't have to be precious about the screen at all.
That's so true. That's so true. Now I've got my delicious butter here, and I'm going to actually put it in the Butterbell, which is our Thermomix Butterbell. And so a Butterbell you can get on the mix shop. It's actually a very, very handy tool because it'll keep your butter soft and sitting on the bench. Now with some of this butter, I actually made heaps today because I used more. I used a 600 ml cream, and I'm going to actually put some garlic and herbs with the bit that I've got left here in my basket and just roll it into a little log and put it in my freezer for when we do garlic bread next. But for this bit of butter that I do want to have on the bench top to have with the bread that we're making a bit later, I'm going to pop a tiny little bit of cold water in the base of the Butterbell. And this is a very old-fashioned way of keeping butter. that cold water at the bottom will actually help keep that butter and stop it going rancid over time. So you can keep it for, often, I reckon I've kept my butter there for 4 days, but I'll often use it in a cake or something too, but probably about 4 days. Or you could put it in the fridge in between times that you're using, but definitely in the winter, it'll last on the bench. And that means it's always spreadable, which is handy. So there's our little butter. And the rest of this I'm going to wrap up afterwards. And I might show you after we come back from Diana. But before we do that, we're actually going to go on to make a nice buttermilk bread, because why not? And I'm not going to bother washing out my bowl, because why? It's got the buttermilk in there. Now, can you still see my screen? Let's have a look.
Yes. Yep.
You can see it all right. That is good. All right, we'll come out of the center. Come out of there. Let's go back. We'll go back into my recipes to cook. And down here, I've actually got saved. Let's have a look. My week. I've got that lovely buttermilk bread in there as well. There it is. I noticed yours was, you've done yours as a loaf of bread, Diana.
Yes, I have.
Looks fantastic. So
there we go.
Today I'm going to make a focaccia with the dough that I've got proving, but we're going to put that buttermilk that we just made into the bowl. So 180 mils of buttermilk. So in it goes. Whee. And that was clever. I didn't put the scales on. So I'm going to do it again for you.
But this
Some of the recipes will automatically have the scales going and others don't. And because I'm looking from the back, we'll put it on too.
Well, on that, for anyone here this evening, we really encourage you to have a demo, and we stand behind the machine and you actually do the cooking. So, and I loved my very first demo I did with just the TM7. I reached out to a couple of ladies who'd been to one of my hybrids and I said, will you be my practice guinea pigs? And they all said, I said, well, you know, what do you want to do today? And they said, I want to get hands on. And I said, great, because you are doing the cooking. So don't think that you're going to have a demonstration and you're going to sit back and not know what's happening. We're actually going to facilitate you cooking, so you actually get a feel for how easy it is.
Absolutely. So you'll notice it's just knocked itself off of the butter. The buttermilk went and ticked itself off. Now we're going to put water in. Instead of water, I'm actually going to use that second round of buttermilk. It'll make it all the more delicious. And it's on tear. Yes, it is. Just checking this time and making sure I can see it. Yeah, 200. Terrific. You can see I've got so much buttermilk and so much buttermilk extra to make as many bread rolls and doughs as I want. Now it's ticked itself off as well. Some dried instant yeast. Now, if you're not a bread maker, I often use this one, dry instant yeast. It's easy. 1 sachet is what you need to make a loaf of bread or make a set of 12 rolls or make a focaccia. You just pop the dry yeast in. One of the tips here is to be careful not to actually just drop it on the nut, because you want it in the liquid so that when it's in the liquid, it can actually heat up with the liquid and come to exactly the right temperature. So we'll tick off that dried yeast and go on to the next step. Now it's saying heat. So 3 minutes on 37 degrees. Lid on. Now, always remember to have your lid facing the front when you put it on. Otherwise, it sits a bit awkwardly and it's a bit harder to put on. So I always find if you line it up directly to the handle, it fits on perfectly every time. Heating for 3 minutes, 37 degrees on speed 1. Off it goes.
Well, maybe while that's doing that, we'll pop back to Diana, because I'm sure those onions are ready and she can pop her soup on.
Great idea.
Lovely. Thanks, Suzanne. We'll see you again
See you soon.
So here are my sauteed onions, and you can see that they've all caramelized down the bottom. So I like to just move the spatula, and this is the TM7 spatula. Everyone's loving it because it's nice and long and you can actually scrape all the way around. So I have just lifted any browning on there, and that's gone onto our onions, which has got all that flavour. Now, this is a wonderful recipe, even if you're just making some sausages on the barbecue, just to have your Thermomix there caramelising your onions is one little thing that you don't have to worry about. But now that we've caramelised our onions, I'm going to make a delicious pumpkin soup, and this is a really quick and easy one. And we've already sauteed some onions, so we can actually start this recipe. Oh, sorry. We'll just go back to the recipe so you can see what that recipe is looking like. We can start that recipe and we can actually skip through the steps of popping in onion and sauteing it. And we're just going to go right to the part where we need to add our pumpkin. Now you can use any veggies really for this pumpkin soup. So if you've got some celery or sweet potato, you can definitely add that. As you can see, it's ticking itself off once I've hit the correct amount. But look, if you are a little bit over or under, that's totally okay. You can just manually tick those steps over. So I'm just sticking to the recipe with the pumpkin and the carrot, but as I mentioned, you can add any veggies you've got. So this could even be a really good clear out the fridge soup as well. So popping the lid on there, it's just going to chop those veggies for us. We keep them nice and whole, about size, about 3 to 4 centimeters, and it's going to chop for 15 seconds on speed 7. All we need to do is press play. I'm telling you what, I love that little sound that it makes. Now, popping that lid off just to show you how quick that has chopped up there. So that has been finely chopped. We're just going to scrape down the sides of the bowl. So what that means is that this soup is going to cook very, very quickly. And this recipe is a great one because you can actually scale down the recipe for just 2 serves, which means it's going to cook even faster. So if it's just you or somebody else at home, you don't have to always make big batches of food. You can actually scale the recipes down, but also that if there are a lot of you or you've got big eaters in the house, you can actually scale up a lot of those recipes. Plus you can actually fill up to your bowl right up to the maximum volume line to feed a crowd. Now we're just going to add some water.
And you'll notice as Diana adds the water, the digital twin is filling up with the water down below as it weighs it in, which is kind of cool.
Everything's really cool about this machine. It's just so exciting. Now we're going to add some vegetable stock paste. So our vegetable stock paste, we often refer to it as our liquid gold. Mind you, sometimes it looks a little bit greeny rather than orangey yellow. But what this vegetable stock paste is that it's basically a flavored, concentrated, just flavor booster that we like to add to a lot of our cooking. So when you own a Thermomix, you never need to purchase stock ever again. All this contains is vegetables, herbs, a lot of salt, and a touch of oil. It's usually one of the first recipes that we cook with you, and we use it with a lot of our savory cooking, but it's a great money saver. We just need a tablespoon for this recipe. A great money saver and a great way to reduce any kitchen waste as well, because it is a good way to use up any veggies or herbs that are a little bit, a bit soft or near the end of its day. So you can definitely use that. So we'll just tick that on the screen down the bottom there and press next.
I heard an interesting stat, Diana, the other day, and that was that a jar, like one batch of your chicken stock, is about equivalent to $80 worth of the continental liquid stock.
Yes, I've heard that as well.
$80.
I think it was 80 litres of the continental stock.
Yeah, which is 80. I think that's how they worked out the $80, you would say, making,
yes,
your one batch of chicken stock.
It's absolutely phenomenal. And that's the thing, once you own a Thermomix, you never need to buy stock again. And you've got recipes there for vegetable stock paste, chicken stock paste, meat stock paste. Most of the time, all I have is this vegetable stock paste. I now use that for all my recipes, and it's fine. And it actually keeps in the fridge for about 6 months. You can pop it in your freezer if you like as well. But it does have a lot of salt in there, so it does act as a natural preservative. If you are following a low salt diet, you can actually halve or decrease the salt or even eliminate it if you like. But if you do that, please remember to freeze your stock just for it to last as well. So this soup is now cooking for 20 minutes, hands-free. So this is actually giving us 20 minutes extra into our life to do whatever we want. So back to you, Suzanne, if you're ready after your kneading.
I sure am. So what I'd like to do is come back to making bread. So let's go on to next. And what we're going to do is add in some baker's flour. So that's just heated up that yeast and water into my bowl really nicely. So nice and all heated up. And I'm now going to add my flour. Now, I tend to buy baker's flour, which is my Wallaby flour. My phone's telling me to let you speak, but I won't. I'm going to take it off. So the Wallaby baker's flour I find is terrific. Now, I'm going to take it back to Tia and weigh in my 500 grams. It's about 3 scoops. And it's a much cheaper way of buying flour. And again, you know, I'm being a little bit all over the place and allowing my flour to go on my screen. And once again, it's not going to make any difference to whether I can touch it or feel it or, you know, make it work. And there's no risk of any of that getting into the Thermomix mechanics or anything. So 500, there it is. In, put the rest of my flour away for next time and add salt. So it's just ticked itself off, my digital twin. Thank you, digital twin. 1 teaspoon of salt, and it goes. Bread does need salt, so don't leave it out. Tick salt and go into next. And then we're going to mix it. Now this mixing is great because it helps you to see how quickly the Thermomix works to move all of these ingredients together. Excellent. Next, we'll show you that. You can see that's all come together really beautifully. And now I'm just going to let it knead. So we've got kneading here for 3 minutes. Did you know that kneading in your Thermomix, 3 minutes in here is equivalent to 15 minutes on the benchtop? So again, look how much time we're saving. Now, can I ask people in the chat who have been making bread in your Thermomix, and what are your favourite bread recipes to make? I must say one of mine at the moment is focaccia. And so actually while this is kneading away, I'm going to show you one that I prepared earlier. You know, it's the here's one I prepared earlier theme. And you can see, we'll slide our little Thermomix because it's on its little rollers over and open up our dough of the beautifully kneaded Thermomix and of the beautiful dough. And look at this soft, beautiful dough ready to go.
It is actually a lovely dough, this one. It is a bit sticky, so don't be afraid of that, everybody, because you'll find different doughs that have different textures, but it just makes a lovely loaf of bread. And in fact, mine, I don't know if you heard my timer a minute ago, but it was out of the oven and then it said 5 minutes in the tin. So in my Thermomix, in the cook center, I set a 5-minute timer, so I knew to bring it out of the tin.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing yours too. Now I'm going to show you a little Italian trick that my mother-in-law showed me for focaccias. And that is putting a little bit of oil and water on the base. And then you add a little bit of salt to that. Now I've got some rosemary salt that I'm going to put on because it's focaccia. And that's another one that you can find the recipe for in your Cookidoo. You just pop it on the base, pop your dough in, and then that's a lovely dough to be able to then tip a little bit of oil and water on the top. And you can just push it in to make your focaccia. So as Michelle and Diana have made their loaves of bread, I'm doing this focaccia that'll be great to have with a soup for dinner tomorrow night.
And
I'm going to put some tops
Suzanne,
to it.
Suzanne, that the oil and water, what's the ratio?
About half and half.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
olive oil and water, and usually use a little bit of warm water, particularly if it's cold weather like it is now, because it'll just help it rise a little bit more. But you can see that dough is all beautiful and delicious. And then you can top it with any of those sort of toppings you like. My favourites at the moment and what my family are enjoying are some onion and tomato, a little bit of fennel, and then also some fennel seeds, which is terrific, and a little bit of chilli. But I won't keep going on that one. I'll actually decorate that while you're while you're chatting with your soup in a minute. Have I still got time? Can you keep me for a little bit longer?
Yes.
Until this is finished.
Would like to keep talking. You are welcome.
Excellent. So, yes, look, I'll decorate that anyhow a little bit later. But what I did want to show you is that you can rise your bread either in a baker's mat, which is fine. You can also rise it in a bowl, which is absolutely fine. But these baker's mats are our host rewards, and they're extremely terrific. Like, they're just fantastic. They don't stick. You can make lots of pastries and stuff on them. They've got the beautiful circles, so you can get pies and pizzas exactly the right shape for your trays. With short crust pastries and stuff, you can't go wrong with a baker's mat, and they even work with high heat, so you can use them for the sugar work that Diana was talking about before. Now, the alternate, if you don't have one of these mats, but you do have one of our wonderful thermoservers, the thermoservers, which are also a host reward, are an amazing way to rise your bread. So just pop your bread dough in there and leave it for, the time that it needs. And when you take the lid off, you'll find that the bread's almost to the top, or the bread dough. So what I'm going to do now, take the lid off, because this is now finished its kneading. I'm going to have a look inside. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dough. Tip it upside down. Now, this is a fun trick that we learned about our Thermomix at our recent training. There is a little hole on the bottom of your spatula, and it fits exactly in your nut. So you will have probably gone to classes in the past, or you may not have, and learned that to get the dough out, you can just wiggle the nut with your fingers. But how's this? You don't need to use your fingers. You can use the spatula. So I'm going to do that. Wibble the spatula, and the dough should mostly fall out. As Michelle mentioned before, this is a very, very sticky dough. So we do have a little bit left on the end, but to get that off is a very easy trick. You can just put the lid back on again, go back into manual mode, which is on your Thermomix, and then go up to a nice high speed, maybe a 9.5, and let it just for a second. Now have a look at this. No more troublesome dough on those blades. Instead, it's all sitting around ready for your spatula to come in and easily pull out. So that's a really clever trick. And I'll just, as soon as I've done this twice with my spatula, the new spatula is terrific. Always use it in a clockwise direction though, because if you use it anti-clockwise, the blades are sharp and they can nick your spatula. And I know that that's a bit of a trick for people who are left-handed, but give it a go, is what I say, give it a go. Or, if you don't want to, spatulas can be found on the mix shop. There we are, pretty clean. A bit of a dough clean on our new pre-clean dough mode. We'll clean that up beautifully, ready for whatever you're doing next. Now I'm going to wrap this one up and let it prove for another round of things. Maybe I'll make bread this time, a loaf of bread like Michelle and Diana have. But come back to me and I'll show you my focaccia.
And Suzanne, you could also make scrolls using that same dough as well.
I absolutely could.
Yeah.
I absolutely could. Look, even with that focaccia dough that I did before, you can see the shape that I've made it here. If I was to put cheese and Vegemite, I could just roll it up and then cut it into pieces to make scrolls.
And this would be a great recipe if you're doing lunch boxes and maybe you want to make, half scrolls, half bread rolls. You can just use that same dough.
So true. So true. Yes. Good. I'll let you go back to your soup and I'll see you in a minute.
Well, actually,
no, my soup's still cooking, so we can go to Michelle.
Oh, that's good.
Hang on. We're coming to me because what I'm going to do is show you Cookidoo for a minute. And I have also got my loaf of bread out of the oven. And it's funny, we've all made the same bread, but we've all got our own twist on it. So that's, it is very much choose your own adventure. You'll notice that mine is covered in seeds. So my little trick that I learnt at a class, and again, most of the things that we know, we've learnt from someone else somewhere along the way. As consultants, we go to lots of classes, we run them, we learn from you, you learn from us. It's wonderful. That this lady at one of the classes I went to, she coats the inside of the tin with olive oil and then just sprinkles seeds all inside the tin and then pops the dough in on top of that. And then, of course, I just added some extra seeds to the top. Now, I know I can't remember if it was Diana or Suzanne, but one of them touched on the sensor. So I actually did use the sensor today. And that's our sensor. And it actually connects via Bluetooth to the TM7. So I'm going to throw that in the dishwasher to wash it. I'm going to put it away straight away. But it connected automatically. It was the first time I'd used it with the TM7 tonight. And it said, start Bluetooth. And I said, yes. And then it said, sensor detected, add device. So I said, yes. Too easy. So I'm going to let that cool a little bit more and I will slice it up in a minute because I do have this very fancy bread knife that I got on the mix shop, which makes it really nice, and you can get really nice slices with it. But if you want your bread to last a long time, you should actually let it cool down before you cut it. But because I have 2 hungry teenagers here, this bread is not going to last a long time. It'll be gone probably by the morning, I would suggest. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen and just give you a little bit of an introduction to Cookidoo, because I do know that the exciting thing about the TM7 is that we've got a lot of people who are completely new to Thermomix, which is fabulous. So I know Diana talked about Cookidoo at the start. So Cookidoo is like our Netflix for recipes. It's probably the best way to describe it. And so what you'll notice is that the layout is the same here as it is on the app. You can get an app for your phone as it is on the Thermomix itself. So you can go into the menu to be exploring and looking for different things. You'll notice here that that's where my week is, where Suzanne tapped into before. And then you can also add things to your shopping list. So when you're in this explore page, if you know you just want a main dish or a soup or something like that, you can just click straight on that. Or you can search by ingredients. So you might go, I know pumpkin's in season at the moment. So you might go, I've got a pumpkin. So, and you can type in pumpkin, and then it's going to give you all the things that have pumpkin in it. But maybe I don't want to look at all the things. So I'm going to go in here and go, maybe I'd like a pasta and rice dish with pumpkin. Now it's showing me 18 results. So it makes it a little bit easier to decide rather than me looking at thousands of recipes. So I can look at this and go, oh, pumpkin risotto with bacon. Actually, that's been recommended to me. I'm going to have a go at that. So we'll add that to my week. That could be tomorrow's dinner. And I'll need to buy those ingredients as well. So I'll add that to my shopping list. This is actually another dish that I've made before, and I'm going to add that to my week as well. And I've got a friend who's vegetarian, so perhaps I'll have her over for dinner when I have that. So that could be Friday night, and I'll have to add those things to the shopping list as well. So there's lots of different ways you can do that. Now, what you'll also notice is that if you go into my recipes, there's a few different categories. So your bookmarks are like your favorites. So I would recommend that your bookmarks are going to be the things that you make all the time. If you make porridge every morning or a green juice, or you make banana bread a couple of times a week for school lunch boxes or whatever that might be. So you don't want to overload your bookmarks, because then searching through them is going to be more tedious. Recently cooked, as I touched on before in the on the TM7. So, and sometimes, you know, if I have things like this tomato soup, it's just a favorite. So I'll just go straight to recently cooked and know that it's going to be in one of those recent recipes. Creative recipes is where you can write and create your own recipes. Now you may, I don't know why I've got that in there twice, probably just showing somebody. You can copy a link from within Cookidoo already to edit a recipe, or you can write a recipe from scratch using this little plus down the bottom here. So you can either import a recipe or create a recipe. And we do actually have some tutorials on how to do that as well. So, and if that's something you'd like to focus on, you can also ask your consultant when you have your demo to explore that a little bit further. Generally, if you're writing your own recipes though, what I would recommend is actually looking in Cookidoo, because there are nearly 100,000 recipes in Cookidoo. So say you're writing a chicken curry recipe that you've had passed down from, you know, your auntie or somebody. I would look for a chicken curry in Cookidoo and then just edit that to suit your ingredients, rather than having to retype everything yourself. It's just a little cheats way to do it more quickly. And collections refer to all of our cookbooks and collections. So when you get your TM7, it is preloaded with what we call our manifesto. So let me see if I can pull that up here. And the manifesto is to replace a physical cookbook. There we go. And these are all the recipes in the manifesto. And there are 200 recipes across 7 different categories in our manifesto. So even if you don't have Cookidoo on your machine, you will always have access to these 200 recipes. I saw them making this blueberry jam on the Thermomix socials, and it did look very nice. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I love doing this because every time I look, there's something I haven't seen before. So when you get your Thermomix, you'll have 200 recipes already ready to go. And when you have a look at your week, so we talked before about adding things to your calendar, you can have a look at your calendar here, and you can go back. There we go. scroll down, look at what else you've got. You might be able to hear I'm a bit husky at the moment, so I was looking at this recipe today, this turmeric chicken bone broth. I'm going to make this tomorrow and see if I can knock this little cold on the head. And then you can also have a look at your shopping list. So in your shopping list, you'll notice that it's either by category or by recipes. Now, if it's by category, that's really useful if you're walking around the supermarket. So as you can see, it's got all your, baking, sugar and nuts, beverages, liquids, cereals, legumes, dairy, meats, etc. So with this list, before you go shopping, you can obviously then go in and go, I've got baking powder, I've got caster sugar, I don't need that, I've got that's got that there twice, I've got some wine, I've got lemon juice, I've got water. So it does list everything. So you can tick off the things that you don't need to purchase. The other thing you can do is have a look at it by recipe, because you might look at this and go, oh, hang on, I made those the other day. I can remove that from my shopping list. So make sure that we've made those, remove that from the shopping list. So then you can actually just be looking at the things that you actually do need to purchase. And once you're ready, you've got a couple of choices. So as I mentioned, if you're wandering around the supermarket, you can be ticking them off as you pop them in your trolley. You can share it, which will copy it to a clipboard, and you could send a text message to someone who lives in the same house, who's on their way home, and say, hey, can you pick up these few ingredients on your way home? Or this is where the magic happens. You can tick this little box here that says order ingredients, and it will connect you with Woolworths. Now, at the moment, we are only set up with Woolworths because their back end was able to handle it, but we have been in discussion with Coles and Aldi, and ultimately we hope that they'll come on board as well, because we do know in Europe, they do have a choice of several supermarkets. So then you can actually be having a look at this and look at the different brands and see what you like the look of here. Now, here it's got my buttermilk on here. It's saying the buttermilk, but I'll give you a little tip. If you don't make your own buttermilk, like Suzanne did tonight with the butter, you can actually add a bit of vinegar or lemon juice to milk, and it will curdle and turn into buttermilk for you. So that's what I did today to make the buttermilk bread. So that's my little tip there. So with this, you can have a look at here and go, oh no, that's not the brand that I want. And I can say swap, and then I can have a look through and choose the one that I want to get. So, do you know what? I'm going to get the home brand. It's only $1.30. Perfect. And then it'll swap that out for you. So that's just a quick Cookidoo overview, because I know, as I said, I know a few of you are new to Thermomix and Cookidoo completely. When you get your Thermomix, you will get a 30-day free trial of Cookidoo. And then when you sign into your TM7, you'll get 3 months for free. So you get to try it for 4 months. And then it's only $89 a year after that for the full global platform. So I noticed one of the girls also said before, there's pictures next to the ingredients. I've got Italian background. I can't speak Italian, but I love sometimes cooking in Italian. And I love now, I used to use Google Translate, but now that there's little pictures, I can kind of go, oh, okay, that's olive oil or that's butter or whatever it might be. So that's kind of a bit of fun. So I'm just going to pop this back for a second and show you my beautiful bread. As I said, I've got kids sniffing in the background going, it's like second dinner when we do these Zoom classes.
Mine are too. They are looking forward to the focaccia for second
I bet
dinner.
they are. Actually, can you stop saying focaccia, because mine will be going, why don't we have focaccia, mate?
I'm sure the bread will be absolutely divine. You can put whatever you want on it. Oh, that looks gorgeous. Well done.
It's just a perfect loaf of bread. Yeah. And, the funny thing today was that I wasn't really paying a lot of attention, and it does say to wrap it in the mat, let it do a first proof, knock it down, and then put it in the tin. I just put it straight in the tin. So, yeah. And then went, so after the first proof, I sort of just stuck a skewer in it and just sort of, kind of kneaded it through the top of the tin and let it do another proof. And it's absolutely perfect. The other thing is that the sensor does take the guesswork out of it, because my oven's a little bit inconsistent. So that is fabulous to take the guesswork out of it. Now, we haven't used this tonight. Dana, sing out when your soup's ready, but I just...
No, it's just finished.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to go to you and then I can do this?
Yeah. I'll be 2 seconds.
All righty, let's go over to Diana, because she has got some delicious pumpkin soup there. Second. There you are. Found you.
All right, so just without tipping this all over my laptop, there's our pumpkin soup all cooked there. Now the next step that we need to do is add some cream, but that's optional. I tend to leave the cream out in my soup because I know my kids like to do a little smiley face with their cream on their soup. It's just something we've always done since they were little. So you can leave it out, but feel free to add, if you want to put some coconut cream or something like that. But given that we're skipping this step, all we need to do is just press next, and that just takes us to the next step. And what we're going to do here is blend up our soup so it's nice, silky and smooth, and nothing will get your soup smoother and silkier than a Thermomix because it's so powerful. So all we need to do is pop the lid on, press play, and that's going to blend up for a minute. And then after that, we're just going to taste our soup, see if it needs any salt and pepper, but then we're pretty much done. So I'm not sure if you want to go back to you, Michelle.
Yeah. Because it occurred to me that I wanted to just talk a little bit more about the TM7 and show people the accessories. So this is the Varoma. You'll notice it is a bigger Varoma. It's 40% bigger than the TM6 and TM5 Varoma with that rectangular shape. And it's also got that a bit of extra height as well. So you've got the lid there, the holes, the steaming holes in the lid and the sides, which means when you lift it down from your Thermomix, you can actually use that as your base and you're not going to drip on the bench. You've got this great, wonderful tray, which is quite deep. So if you've got fish or chicken or meatballs or something in there, there's plenty of height to accommodate that. And then you've got the wonderful dish with the, and you can see there, if I hold it up with the white behind it. So obviously the steam comes up through the lid of the TM7 and comes up through the Varoma to steam your goodies. Now,
Michelle, you can fit 2 chickens in that Varoma now.
Oh, there you go.
2 chickens.
You've done that yet? I haven't done that yet.
Yes, I have. And I love that because then you steam them for a little bit first and then you can add the rice underneath and you get this most delicious chicken rice because you've cooked the rice with the chickens cooking on top.
Fabulous.
And then you get the stock,
So
of course,
talk a little bit about this, and I just wanted to show you. So the reason it's so quiet is because it has this outer casing. This is called the shroud. So off comes the lid. Now, unlike previous models where we've said put the lid anywhere, as Suzanne said, it actually just goes straight on. So actually, it makes it quite easy. You're just putting it straight down, and it wants to go that way. So it does lead you in that way. Now what we have is the simmering basket, which you saw Suzanne use tonight. So you can use that for steaming, you can use that for straining. And I tend to keep my little cap in there because you don't want to keep anything on the blade, but you want it to be handy. So I tend to store mine like that. And that also then allows the Thermomix to breathe if you've been cooking and maybe doing curries and different things. And then this is really cool because what we've got now is just this lever on the side. And once you release that, the blade can come out and then you can lift the bowl straight up as well. Now, the cool thing about this is the bowl now can go in the dishwasher. And although we do have the incredible cleaning option, so you don't need to always do that, but this can go in the dishwasher and it takes up a lot less space because it doesn't have a handle. Now, people have asked if this can go in the dishwasher. It can. It's not recommended. I think what you'd find is that the black would fade if it was in the dishwasher a lot, but it actually doesn't get dirty. So I've been cooking with it. We've all had ours. Actually, it's nearly a month. In fact, it is a month, isn't it? We got them on around the 23rd, 24th of May. And I've maybe rinsed that once when I spilled something on it, but it really doesn't get dirty. So it just means it's a lot more space effective in your dishwasher. And then to put it back together, this bit here just lines up with the handle. So it's very easy. It's a perfect little jigsaw puzzle. Drops in like that. I'm going to drop the blade back in. And you want to wait, you push it down until it's flush at the bottom. Now, the cool thing is as well, you cannot, if you try and sit this on the base without locking it in, it doesn't. So, I've learned that because I went to do it and I'm like, why is that not working? It was because I hadn't locked it in. So if you're putting it on and you're going, why isn't that sitting straight? Just check that you've locked it in. And you'll know because if you can lift the blade up, you haven't locked it in properly. So, yeah, there you go. So I just wanted to give a little bit of intro. But you'll notice, and Diana mentioned before about the heat element, there's no heat there. So it does mean that you can hold it with 2 hands. So I know some people struggled a little bit with the other jugs because you were only holding it with one hand because it was too hot to hold with two hands. Whereas now, if you do need to hold it with two hands, and even though I'm finding at demonstrations, because the handle is facing the customer, I just lift it like this. So it's super easy. So I just wanted to give you a bit of a navigation about the bowl. We sort of done a little bit of navigation on the screen, but we really encourage everybody to have a learning demo when you get your TM7, or even actually, because we know now some of you have to wait a little while, we have some incredible host rewards. So the girls have talked about the mats tonight. We have thermo servers that have also been talked about, and those things are all host rewards, which means you can start hosting and gathering host rewards before you actually get your machine, and then we can be helping you set up your Cookidoo. You can be planning your meals, so when it arrives, you will hit the ground cooking, not running. You'll hit the ground cooking. So yeah, I really encourage you to do that. And we will have other events and things like this. We also have this weekend a couple of open house events in Moorabbin for our magazine launch. So if you haven't heard, we've just launched a new magazine. It hit the shelves today, which is very exciting as well. So
I saw it down at Coles when I went there before.
Did you?
But I want to plug our Indian class too. We've got an Indian class in West Footscray this Saturday. So if you're looking for an Indian class, come down to West Footscray. It's on our thermomix.com.au under events or under classes in West Footscray.
I tell you what, when I send the recording, I will attach your link for that as well.
Please do. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be terrific.
Diana, I guess, where are you? Your soup must be ready. If everyone's just got some little things to show.
Perfect.
There you are. I just thought I'll have this all on the screen now, because I just love to say to everybody that we are known, particularly Diana and I, as big talkers. This class on the run sheet is a 40-minute class. So we're just over an hour now. So
we've done well, Michelle.
Indication. So thanks for sticking with us. But yeah, have a look at what everyone's got going on here. It's wonderful.
So
I'm just going to show you the butter too.
Oh, hang on. Bring that down. There's my soup, and I've made a fresh loaf of bread. So I couldn't concentrate at the start of this video because I literally just took this loaf of bread out, and the smell was just killing me. All I was thinking is I cannot wait to dig into this.
Well, I'm so waiting to eat this bread too. So
well, I've got soup and bread. I can have a party now.
I know, totally. And look at Suzanne's focaccia. It's gorgeous.
Focaccia's got to go in the oven now, and then we'll have some of that. But I did want to say, I forgot to show you the cool knife. So Thermomix has got this really cool knife that sort of gives you really nice little curly bits of butter on the side. It's like a rose gold knife that you can use. But I always think that's very fun using our little knife. But yep, butter and bread. And also I've got my little butter there with herbs. Can you see it on that screen?
Oh,
yes,
beautiful. Yeah, we can. Fabulous.
With herbs. And what I'm going to do is just roll him up in baking paper, put a little date on the side. And sorry, I'll show you how I roll him up. I just sort of roll him, do the little tweak on the sides.
Bonbon.
Yep. And bonbon him and put him in the freezer in some plastic, or I actually have a container that I put them in, and then I've got a number of little ones with garlic or whatever herbs I want in there.
Yum. And then if you're having a steak or something, or making a herb and garlic bread, then you just cut off a piece at a time.
Cut off the piece and make it.
Fabulous. Love it. Oh, well, thank you, ladies. I think I'm not sure if there were any other questions that got asked that we may not have answered. Everyone's saying they want to go and make bread now, which is you're welcome. I think bread is one of those things that people do find a bit scary, and when they, it really demystifies it to see us doing it. And we've all used the same recipe today, but created 3 different looks. So it really is choose your own adventure. So thank you for joining us on our very first TM7 Zoom cooking class, masterclass. And we look forward to many, many more. We would welcome any feedback. And if you've got any questions, please reach out. We are all learning the TM7 together, and we as consultants are absolutely loving it. And we're really excited to invite anybody who wants to join us on this venture. The second half of the year is always busier than the first half of the year with Thermomix from a customer sales perspective. The fact that it's a new model amplifies that. So if you want a piece of that action, or you just want to learn about this new exciting thing you've bought, please reach out to us, because we would love to speak to you. So thank you, everybody, and good night.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks, Michelle, for hosting us.
Thanks,
Yeah,
girls, for
thanks.
presenting.
Thanks,
Love it.
Dana.
Teamwork,
Thanks,
the dream
Suzanne.
work. All right, I'll stop.
Bye.